All right, welcome to episode 4 of D and D's two-man game. I am Damon. This is my good friend and co-host Dom. How you doing, Dom?
My name's Dom. I'm the co-host. I'm doing good, Damon. How are you? How are you doing?
I'm living, I'm living. It's different time. We usually, we're recording this on a Thursday evening. We usually do this like Saturday morning, afternoonish. So, different
Yeah,
headspace, I guess.
a lot. Well, I was just about to say the same thing. Like it just feels weird that like a day has happened. Usually we do this and then I go do things.
Mhm.
It's cool. It's good. I'm gonna be busy this weekend. I'm gonna be going to the LA Sparks game on Saturday.
Oh, I did not know that. Who are they playing?
They they're playing the Atlanta Dream.
The
Um,
Atlanta Dream. Let's see.
yeah. Yeah, let's see how good these teams are. But anyone listening to this, I highly recommend going to a WNBA game because they are usually you can get seats a lot cheaper and you can sit pretty close. I'm
I
not
don't
gonna
know.
say how cheap. You got to find out for yourself. Every city's different.
I don't know any of these people on this team. And I know like an okay amount of WNBA players.
Yeah,
15 and 13. Yeah, okay.
yeah, you know a lot more than me when it comes to. You were like when I went to a Sparks game. You said, "Oh, look out for these players." I'm like, I don't know who they are, but I'll look out for some.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm going. It's gonna be a fun game.
You
Just
just go you
it's
just going with some friends or who you going with?
I'm going with Maria. You know,
Shout out Maria.
shout out Maria. First time on the pod.
First shout out on the pod.
Yeah. Well, before we go any further, I gotta do my shirt reveal. I want to show you my
Shirt
little shirt
reveal.
that I'm wearing.
Let's see it.
Ready for this?
Unzipping the jacket.
You're right.
Oh, it was the Green Rocket shirt. You said it wasn't the Green Rocket shirt.
Yeah,
We
I
could have
lie
matched. We could have been
sometimes.
twins.
Well, no, because the shirt you're wearing is way cooler. What
So
shirt are you wearing, Damon?
uh,
But for people who are not
for our audio
watching,
listeners,
for
yeah.
audio
So
listeners.
I'm wearing a shirt that says Waiters Island, in reference to Dion Waiters, another player that Dom and I
Shout out,
just
shout out,
like. Shout out Dion Waiters. Yeah, and the apostrophe's in the wrong place. It's supposed to be after the S, but it's after the R. Dom actually got me this shirt for my birthday last year, I think, just in August. So about
Yeah,
a year ago. But yeah, I decided to wear it because he tried out for the Warriors, trying to come back in the league.
we'll
Um,
see. NBA champion Dion Waiters might be
NBA
back in the
champion. Yeah,
league.
you got to put respect. Yeah, it's like saying president. It's like
Give
President
respect where it's due.
Obama. It's like NBA champion Dion Waiters, not just
Yeah,
Dion
NBA
Waiters.
champion Dion Waiters, NBA champion JaVale McGee, NBA champion Kent Bazemore. You
Contavious
know,
Caldwell Pope.
Contavious Caldwell Pope.
Pope. I added an
Pope.
extra L, like orange juice.
Um, yeah, but so last time what we covered the second half of the off season, starting with the Heat or no, the Bucks, one of the two. But yeah, so that was a 2 hour episode. So if you listen to that, thank you for listening to that. That was a lot of fun to dive into a lot of
All of
these
our
teams.
episodes have been getting longer, so we're going for a 3 hour pod today, I think.
No, 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 no. It's already so late. So it's later for you even too. But
Yeah.
yeah, so that was fun. Since we finished all the off season kind of trade stuff, we thought we would just kind of things are still happening in the league, so we're just gonna bring up little things that we think are cool. I know Damon sent me something that you told when you sent it to me, you said I could cry. So what's going on?
Did I actually say I could cry?
You say I could cry. This is my I could cry.
I already don't remember that. But real quick though, if you didn't listen to the first episodes, definitely go back, check them out. Subscribe on YouTube if you're watching on YouTube. If you're an audio listener on Spotify, leave 5 stars, download, answer the poll. There's a poll every episode. Leave a comment if you're on YouTube. All that fun stuff. Suggestions, feedback, those things too. We haven't gotten a ton of that, at least publicly, YouTube comment wise and things like that. Feel free to do that. Follow our social media accounts that still have no followers and no post. But once we have followers, I'll think about posting something probably.
We'll think about it. We'll
We'll
think
think
about
about
it.
it. We'll think about it. Yeah, definitely go check it out. Like I said, I talked about off season, but yeah. So the thing I sent to Dom today was that the Suns this season are planning on retiring the jerseys of Sean Marion, who wore 31, and Amari Stoudemire. And it's interesting because I read that they were retiring 32, but I know he wore 32 and number one with them. I'm not really sure why they decided to retire 30. I guess Devin Booker wears number one. So
That's
I
probably
guess
why
that's
I
the
didn't. There
primary
you
reason.
go.
I didn't even think about that until just now.
That's pretty.
I also have no
They're.
idea why he changed his number. I don't know why, like he went from 32 to one.
I thought it was some Mandela effect because I remember seeing 32, but also was like I thought he wore number one, but maybe I thought
Yeah,
it was for a different team or something. But I don't know why he changed his number, but I mean, I think it's awesome. I love watching Sean Marion, and I mean, we mentioned this in the first podcast.
mhm.
That Suns
One of
team
our
with Steve
favorite teams.
Nash,
Yeah.
yeah, and Steve Nash, whose jersey's already retired. So it's
Mhm.
strange that they're already waiting so long. Like, I would have assumed that they would kind of be retired together, but regardless, they're being retired now. Sean Marion, the rainbow shot. I took so many just like deep arcing threes for
That's how
what
he
was that?
shoots. That's how he
Oh yeah, oh yeah,
shoots.
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I thought you were like swimming.
Yeah, I know. That's what it
um,
looks like. I don't get it. I don't get it.
no, but I love just the high arc, and every time I used to shoot it, I would go Sean Marion. It was the Kobe before the Kobe, and Amari Stoudemire was just a beast
Rolls
down
right off
low.
the tongue.
Amari Stoudemire.
Sean Marion, like
Yeah.
Kobe.
Oh
Kobe, Sean
yeah.
Marion.
And we actually at Summer League we saw Sean Marion too.
Yeah,
He seemed pretty
for
nice. He was
Dallas. He
signing
was there for
some
Dallas. Yeah.
autographs. Yeah, he was signing some autographs. Cool guy. We
NBA
didn't get to meet
champion
him.
Sean Marion. Don't forget it.
NBA champion Sean Marion. But yeah, I think that's pretty cool. I'm glad that they're doing that.
I would assume it's a product of the Suns' new ownership with Matt Ishbia, who bought the team last year, from Robert Sarver. I don't know how much you know about all the Robert Sarver stuff, but he was like under investigation for workplace misconduct and sexual like misconduct and all kinds of terrible shit, say
Bad
racist
dude.
things
Bad
and all
dude.
that. So maybe Matt Ishbia, like, he bought the team, immediately traded for Kevin Durant, which is
Yeah.
crazy, and then traded for Bradley Beal this offseason. Now he's retiring these players' numbers that maybe he thought were kind of Suns legends. So
Yeah.
those
Yeah. Well, sorry. What do you think about it?
I was just gonna say I was looking at their jersey retirements earlier because I was
Mhm.
like, whose number is retired? They got a lot of numbers retired.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
thinking about a couple of players. I was just like, they probably got Charles Barkley,
yep.
right?
And it
They
was all,
got
I mean,
Steve
he was
Nash.
legendary. He was only there for 5 seasons though.
Yeah, that's wild. I know his Sixers, Suns, and who am I-
Rockets.
Rockets. Whoops.
Probably somebody else. Probably somebody else I'm forgetting, but
Yeah, probably toward the end. But anyways, number 36, Shaquille O'Neal. Come on, they gotta retire when he was there for a season.
yeah, I don't think so. I don't think
But yeah, I like it. I'm glad that they're getting their jerseys retired. I always like them. They're fun players, and I hope they feel they're definitely respected, and I respect them and loved watching them. So I'm happy for them.
yeah. I mean, like you said, we saw Sean Marion at Summer League, so he's still somewhat active with
Yeah.
basketball. And I know Amari Stoudemire, I think he does like some coaching overseas or something like
Oh,
that.
okay.
So he's
Yeah,
still like involved with basketball.
for whatever reason, I was thinking about Ben Wallace because I was going to say Amari Stoudemire looks totally different than he did back then, but I was thinking of Ben Wallace. Ben
He
Wallace
does
looks
look different
nothing.
though.
I believe that. I don't know what it is about these like center players, just like totally looking different when they're older. But no, yeah, still happy for them and glad they're like still doing basketball and things like that. I'm glad they're not forgotten for sure.
Speaking of overseas, I
Yeah.
know you wanted to briefly talk about FIBA, as I have not a ton of knowledge about it. I do have some things I think I can throw in there once you kind of talk about it and my opinions
Yeah.
and all that. But for people that are listening that may be more casual basketball fan or just an NBA basketball fan, can you kind of explain what FIBA is?
Absolute. Thank you, Damon. Absolutely, I can. And this is something I know I wanted to talk about. So the FIBA World Cup, everyone knows the FIFA World Cup is soccer. The FIBA World Cup also happens every few years. I believe it's every 4 years. and it's very similar to the FIFA World Cup, where there's 32 teams in groups of four, and they play, and they have to qualify for this World Cup as well. So a couple countries that are in it this year, like USA, Lithuania is in it, Slovenia, Germany, Spain, Jordan, which is out of nowhere.
Say Canada.
Japan, I think Canada, yeah, Canada. So just a lot of different countries are in this, and it's on the world stage, which I think is very cool. If you follow the NBA on Instagram and social media, they've been posting a lot about the team and when they got picked. And so the U.S. team just recently played Puerto Rico in an exhibition in Vegas. And I told you to look up the highlights. And if you haven't, I recommend looking up the highlights because it's a very young U.S. team. Austin Reeves, Anthony Edwards, Tyrese Halliburton,
Branding.
Jaren Jackson Jr. Gotta bring the hat. Brandon Ingram. They just looked like they were having so much fun and a very fluid offense and great defense, really going after it. And they played Puerto Rico, and it was a close game in the first half, and then they totally pulled away. But it was fun to see them having a lot of fun together. A lot of players that are not on the same team. A lot of other NBA players are also in the FIBA World Cup. Dennis Schroeder playing for Germany. Obviously Luka Doncic playing for Slovenia. Spain, I think Ricky Rubio is playing for Spain. Canada has Shea and
Jamal Murray,
RJ
Barrett.
Barrett. I don't know if they're all on the because they can
I
opt
think
in or
those three
out.
guys are on the team.
Very cool.
I don't think
Yeah.
Wiggins is.
Yeah. And also, I mean, Lithuania. So Valanciunas is playing for the team, but not Sabonis. He's not playing this year.
Darn.
Yeah, darn. But yeah, so it starts, the exhibitions have already started this week and next week. The actual like group stage is what they call it. That starts August 25th, and it's taking place in Japan, Philippines, Indonesia. So all the games are at 1:30 a.m. or 5:30 a.m. So
Perfect time.
yeah, perfect times. So I don't know. I might be waking up early for a few games at 5:30.
Does that decide like who's in the tournament, the exhibition games?
No, so the exhibition games are now just exhibition games. The qualifying games happen in the years before. So throughout the last couple of years, there have been qualifying games.
Gotcha.
And then there's also like if you win the last time, then you're automatically in. Host countries are automatically in. So Japan, Philippines, Indonesia each have a team in the FIBA World Cup. And so yeah, you basically in your group, there's 4 teams total. Your team plays each team, and you get points. If you win, you get 3 points. If you tie, which is mostly a soccer thing, you get 1 point. If you lose, you get 0. And the top 2 teams in each group then advance to the quarterfinals. And then there, it's sudden death.
Do you know how the groups are decided?
No. Even the FIFA World Cup, I don't know how to
decide. Is it
decide
similar, like the layout you're explaining with the exhibition, the group stage, qualifiers? I mean, is that similar to how FIFA operates?
That's exactly how FIFA operates.
I have no idea about soccer.
You're good. No, I love the FIFA World Cup. So yeah, they have throughout all like the 3 years before the World Cup, they're qualifying games. Whoever wins, like Argentina's got to automatically be in this one since they won the World Cup last year. And then the host country next time is it might be the US, if I'm remembering correctly. US, Mexico, Canada. It's like a joint thing. It's gonna be very cool. I'm definitely going. But anyway, so this is all just to say I'm excited for the FIBA World Cup. It's really fun seeing all these international players you usually don't see, countries who get a chance to shine, who get to play against the US, who might be able to, win. You never know. The US usually wins, but yeah, there's a lot of good teams. And Slovenia during the Olympics was really, really good and made it all the way to this like almost the finals. Basically, Luka carried them, obviously, but There's a couple really good teams out there. Lithuania is really good too, and I'm excited to watch it. And I just yeah, if you're starving for basketball because you don't have the
The
NBA,
dead of the off
well,
season.
we got the FIBA World Cup this year, so you wake up at 5:30 with me and we'll watch it.
That 5:30 Pacific.
5:30 my time, yeah. So it's
Yeah,
probably 7:30 your
7:30.
time, which is
That's
way
less bad.
easier. Yeah, mine's terrible. But it's okay. I'll survive. But yeah, that was it. And again, I recommend anyone who hasn't yet just go see the highlights from the U.S. Puerto Rico game. It's very cool.
Don't support highlight culture. Watch full basketball games.
Okay, yeah, unless it's at 5:30 or 1:30.
Unless it's not live. I'm not saying live. Go
Yeah,
back
yeah,
and watch
yeah.
it later.
No, yeah, definitely watch the full game.
No, highlights are good too, but yeah, especially
Yeah,
if you don't have a
watch.
lot of time. It's just I think I was listening to the Off Guard Austin Reeves
Mhm.
podcast that he has with the Ringer, and in one of their episodes, he was just talking about how like people focus on all the highlights and less on like the fundamentals of basketball. And I was like, yeah, that's important, especially like
I
if
get that.
you're a kid growing up or something. It's like you don't know anything about basketball, and all you're gonna try to do is shoot from 35 feet away because that's what you see Steph Curry doing. It's like, let's not do that. Uh,
Yeah, definitely. I agree with you. Definitely watch a full game. It is really
especially
cool to
European
see.
basketball, they're like the way they play. I think is a lot more fundamental,
Yeah,
um,
oh yes, definitely. And yeah, a
more
little bit
pure.
less flashy for
Mhm.
sure. But yeah, still very fun to watch. And
Do you know any rule changes in FIBA? I
you
know
know, I
you
know
can.
it.
I was gonna say I
Say
know
it.
you can hit the ball on the rim. I know that one.
Yeah, that's literally the only one I was gonna say too.
I
I
also
think
don't think
that
3 seconds is a thing. I don't think 3 seconds is a thing in FIBA.
I was just about to say that. Stop
Haha.
it. Get out of my
Still,
head. Get out of my head. What am I gonna say next? Lithuania's gonna win it all. Okay, cool. Got
ah,
it.
ah.
You like that. So yeah, there's a couple rule change. I don't know all of them, but I will learn them when watching. And if I find out anything more, I'll let you know. And I'm sure I'll give updates on the World Cup stuff on the pod just because I know I will be invested in that.
Yeah, I think a good thing about FIBA is seeing a different kind of perspective of basketball because I think, especially kids, and even people like you and me, people our age, I think they're not basketball fans, they're NBA fans. They love like NBA teams, NBA players, the way the NBA plays, but they don't, they might not tune into college basketball. They might not tune into FIBA or the Olympics or anything like that. And basketball, at different stages is played a lot different. Even
Yeah.
like if you're playing in middle school, high school, like we've talked about before, you're not playing NBA basketball plays out there. You're just trying to do the very basics. So I do think it's definitely beneficial to watch other um mediums, I guess, of basketball and kind of
Yeah.
how it's different. Um, and I think a lot of players, you think about the NBA recently, name the top 10 players, at least half of them are going to be foreign born.
Yeah.
Giannis from Greece, Jokic, Serbia, Luka, Slovenia, um,
You say Shea. He's
Embiid is
Canada.
from like Cameroon, I think. Shea is
Yeah.
from Canada. Yeah. So there's like a lot of fundamentals I think you can
Yeah.
get from um Europe, and that's why like a lot of people from Europe, especially the European leagues, people like Luca who are playing in like leagues when they're 15, come into the NBA and they're like boom, they're like already star status. Like Luca has been an all-star since his second year in the league.
Yeah.
Um, so I think there's definitely a benefit to that. And I was also gonna say something I like about FIBA, especially for players like Luca. I think when we don't have stuff going on like that, we'll get into I think what happened last year, maybe a couple years ago with Luca and players like Harden, even like Anthony Davis, where they take too much of the off season off, and
Mhm.
then they come back to training camp and they're not really in shape.
Out of shape. Yeah.
And this happened to Jokic too, I think, because
Yeah.
he spends the off season in Serbia with his family, which more power to him. That's what you should do.
Yeah.
Um, but then they come back, and then if you had some off season acquisitions, you don't like you can't focus on like improving with those people and getting your coordination together because you're just trying to get back into basketball shape. And by the time you're back in basketball shape, it's like already the preseason. Like, the basketball season is so quick. You play every 2 days or whatever. So uh
Yeah.
coming back, I think, what I'm trying to say is I think this will help them coming back in shape because they're still playing basketball throughout the off season. So by the time they do come back to the NBA, there's not as much of an adjustment. And they can kind of still be in the basketball mind.
Yeah, definitely. I agree with all of those points. I think that's really important too, is, it's tough when you play in the league that is going on for, it's like 6 or 7 months, like year round.
Yeah,
And then I'm sure all you want to do is take a break, and rightly you should
which you
for a
should.
little
Yeah,
bit.
I'm not
Yeah.
saying
But
players shouldn't
then,
take a break.
but yeah, competitions like this make sure that players that that are in it, they just are able just to kind of keep up with it, which I think is good as well. Especially,
Mhm.
I also love that, when down to the core is that they want to represent their country and they want to win for their country, which I think is very
A lot of
powerful.
pride.
I
A lot
mean,
of
yeah, a
pride.
lot of pride. And one other thing I wanted to point out, another reason why I love watching FIBA or FIFA is just what is seeing how many people around the world love the same sport as you.
Mm.
So like you can watch Japan versus Puerto Rico and you will see the stands filled and
Yeah.
people just going crazy for their teams and loving it and like just happy there that their team is there, their country's being represented. And I love that, like that we're separated by so much, yet we can really come together. Something so simple as basketball and just have fun and watch it and enjoy it. It's really powerful to see.
Really makes you take the NBA for granted
Yeah.
because there's 30 teams in all of America where some teams, the only time they're really having like a team is during these kind of international competitions. So it's like, oh, okay, I got to go to this because it's like the one time in the next 4 years I'm gonna get to see basketball being played in my country. Um, so
Yeah.
and also NBA is so talented that players from other countries usually really show out in like international competitions. Like I remember Patty Mills was killing it for
Yeah.
Australia a couple of
He'll
years
yeah,
ago.
Evan Fournier was
Yeah,
going wild. That's when he got that contract with the Knicks. It's because he just went off for France.
yeah,
And that's good. That worked out for him, kind of. So,
yeah. He
and
got
even
the
Patty
money.
Mills. Yeah, he got, Nets gave him money. Knicks got money for Fournier. So, it's, yeah, for whatever reason, when players play for their country, they really put more into it. Not for all, but for some, at least some players. And I just respect that. I mean, I would love one day to represent, the country I was born
Yeah,
in.
I mean
It
it's
would be
different
very
too. Like being someone like Evan Fournier, Patty Mills, who on an NBA roster they're like the ninth, 10th, 11th guy, but on their country roster they're like the one guy, the two guy, like they're the guy,
yeah,
So, and I'm sure like the system they play with, they're probably more used to because if they grew up in another country and they kind of played with that kind of system,
yeah,
um, the NBA I know is very fast paced and flashy as you mentioned compared to European basketball, so um, going back and again, like you said, playing for your country, a different pride that they bring to it. And I wish, part of me wishes that we had more USA pride. I feel like that hasn't happened a ton in our lifetime. I know, when we were
mm.
really young, we had teams with Michael Jordan and Magic Johnson and Larry Bird and like all these legends. And then we had teams with
Redeem team.
Kobe and
Mhm.
LeBron and Kevin Durant, legends. And then, like no disrespect, but I mean, is Austin Reeves a top 50 player in the NBA? I don't know.
Well, it's really funny you mentioned that because for the FIBA World Cup, they really went with like younger players.
Yeah.
Like Anthony Edwards, Tyrese Halliburton, Austin Reeves, Jalen Brunson, and it was very interesting because the Olympics that happened in 2021, that was led by Kevin Durant, Damian Lillard, Donovan Mitchell. So it's strange how as a country we have we put everything in a different, we compartmentalize it, right? So like to every NBA player, what's the one thing you want? NBA championship. That's what matters most at the
Right.
top. What's next after that? Gold medal in the Olympics, and then maybe FIBA World. Like it really like doesn't. There is a hierarchy,
Hmm.
and it's different for every player, and that's fine. I would probably agree with most of it, but I mean, the fact that you represent your own country means a lot. Like those 92 Olympics that Jordan, Magic Johnson were in and everything, like
Hmm.
the Dream Team, that meant a lot to the US. The Redeem Team, it's called that for a reason.
Yeah.
That meant a lot, with Kobe and everything. So, they had to prove themselves. And I think that's a reason why maybe now we've proven ourselves for years and years and years. It was shot. I don't know if did you watch the Olympics the basketball Olympics last time?
No.
So funnily enough, like usually the US just sweeps everybody in the group
Right.
stage and everything,
Yeah,
but they actually lost.
they had trouble with Spain, right?
It was either Spain or France. I can't
And
remember.
France, yeah.
One of those two. They lost a game and they were like, "Oh my God, is this the
It was like
US
one of
gonna
their first
fall?"
games, right?
Yeah, it was like the second game. They won the first
Yeah.
game. Second game they lost, and they were like
I didn't like to
freaking out.
watch games, but I was definitely keeping up with like what was going on.
Yeah, I really wanted a Slovenia US in the finals. We did not get that. Slovenia ended up getting bronze, and then I forgot who got. I think they played Spain or I think they played Spain for the gold. Um, but is it Spain or German? No, Germany. I'm talk. I don't know what I'm saying now, but I know the U.S. won. I know that I remember watching the U.S. won, and I know Slovenia got third.
Yeah, Silver was France.
Oh, okay, it was France. Okay,
France.
and I think that's why people were like, they might lose this because they lost to France earlier.
Bronze
That's
was
why.
Australia, by the way.
Wait, who got? So wait, did Slovenia get fourth?
I don't know, man. It's just showing me the top three.
Dang, I know that. Okay, they got. I guess they got fourth then, but which is fine. I mean, it was a very good Olympics. Kind of like what you were saying about just like the teams, but the US won in the end. But
You know
we'll
who
see
is?
this year.
I forgot that JaVale McGee was on the Olympic roster.
I forgot he was there too.
Like
Don't
they have a
remember
lot
him
of like.
playing.
I mean, this team definitely was a lot better than the FIBA team. They had
Yeah.
KD, Bam, Dame, Devin Booker, Zach LaVine, Drew Holiday, Chris Middleton, Jeremy Grant, Draymond, and then JaVale McGee for whatever reason.
So no Donovan Mitchell. Did I make that up?
I was just looking at a picture and I didn't see him in the picture.
I probably made that up. I apologize. I'm only human. Um,
Keldon
but
Johnson, I forgot he was on that roster.
huh?
Keldon Johnson, USA basketball gold medalist.
Wait, in 2021?
Yeah.
Wow, good for him. Anyways, so yeah,
Oh,
that's
and Tatum. Tatum was on that roster.
Jason. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Again, just um if you can watch the games, they're going to be cool, especially if you just want to watch basketball, see players from around the world.
We like
It's
basketball on
going
this
to be really
podcast.
cool. Yeah. So if you can watch it. I think it's going to be really cool. I'll give y'all updates though because I know I will watch it. Um Speaking about teams though, I know I read this last week, but I didn't look at it, but Damon sent it to me. Apparently, Dr. J, Julius Irving picked. Did he pick his like top team or not top? Did he like pick his like top 10 best players of all time, or did he pick like? Oh, okay, I didn't know if he picked like a super team or whatever.
By the way, if you guys are audio listeners on Spotify or you're just on YouTube and you're not watching, if there's ever moments of silence or pause or Dom and I are definitely over here making hand gestures and facial expressions at each other, just not using our words sometimes. So if you if you're listening and wondering, that's definitely why.
That's how brothers communicate sometimes.
So yeah, I wanted to talk about this last week, but with the second half off-season grades, we definitely didn't have time. That was our longest podcast ever. It was like 2 hours and 14 minutes. So We decided to push it back to this podcast. So it kind of made its waves through the news. But Dr. J, Julius Erving, named his top 10 players of all time, and it was super controversial. So I'm gonna go through and I have the article pulled up, so I'm gonna read you like quotes. But
Okay.
it was during an interview. So
And I want everyone to know as well, I do not know this list. So I saw a list was made and I heard it was controversial, but I do not know who he named.
yeah,
I don't know anything. So
uh,
this is me finding out. You're
and
gonna find out with me.
I wanted to talk about this in a bigger discussion that Dom and I will get into, just about like how you compare players through different eras in the NBA,
Yeah.
different time periods, because I think that's really important. But first, we'll just get to the list. So in the interview with Joy D'Angelo, this is what he said. He said, "I have five guys who are untouchable: Bill Russell, Wilt, and he also said like it's kind of not in order. But
Okay.
Bill
I get it.
Russell, Wilt Chamberlain, Oscar Robertson, Jerry West, Elgin Baylor. That's my all-time best team. Everybody else has to be on the second team or the third team. And I made this decision when I was 15 years old, and I'm sticking with it now, all these years later."
Okay. This is interesting.
Yeah. He continues, "There's no order. I think West and Robertson would be in the back court. Elgin Baylor would be in the front court with Wilt and Bill Russell.
Yeah.
The next group of guys would be Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Michael Jordan, Irvin Magic Johnson, probably Karl Malone." And he struggled with the last person. He said, I'm struggling. He said, I always argue with my son where Tim Duncan belongs." And he's like, he belongs ahead of Karl Malone for sure. I'm taking Karl Malone. Julius Erving is. He's taking Karl Malone, not Tim Duncan. For number 9, he has one more guy left. Stay on this list. Okay.
Okay.
He says, that last position, I like Tiny Archibald.
Who?
Nate Tiny Archibald. Probably not a player that you know. Um,
I was gonna say Nate. It's not. I thought you were gonna say Nate Robinson because he's the
uh,
only tiny Nate I know. Wow, I do not know who that is. That's insane.
I mean, he's a Hall of Famer. He's an
Yeah,
all-timer, but um, and then he was asked about why aren't there players like Steph or
yeah,
LeBron?
yeah.
And he said, in reference to Steph, he hasn't played long enough. He has to finish his career. Everybody I named there, their careers are finished. They're Hall of Famers. So the most recent player on this list, I guess, would be Michael Jordan and Karl
Michael
Malone.
Jordan. Yeah, Michael Jordan played. Yeah, 2001, 2002, right? Was that was
So
it?
he
Yeah.
doesn't have anyone currently in the NBA or anyone that's played in the last 20 years. So let me hear your thoughts on this list.
This is interesting because like obviously some of those are all-time greats. So it's hard to, pick who it's so subjective. Number one, like I don't think I can make a list and be like this is the top 10 list for sure for me or whatever. um in regards to like people's careers not being over, sure. I'm surprised they asked about Steph Curry, not Kobe, that personally. Just because Kobe does have more championships, but um I mean, I get it. Steph is hot right now and he's in the league still. And probably if I had to pick an all-time 10, which I think we might get into, I'm sure Kobe would be there. But in regards to like career not being over, I understand that he doesn't want to pick players that are not done. Even LeBron's not done yet. So who knows what anything that happened this year that could make his legacy even more monumental than it already is.
See, I understand kind of about Steph. When I think about LeBron though, like he's about to enter his 21st season in the NBA.
Yeah.
He's
Yeah.
played longer than all the guys on this list.
I agree. But he
Like
still
he's
could
already
but
there.
yes, but he still could do more. He has the opportunity to still do more. This is like I'm not writing him off. This is not like LeBron is still, he's not the player he was for sure, but he still is a
That would
huge
just make him
impact.
belong on the list even more, though.
Look, this is his top 10. I'm doing a little devil's advocate for his list.
Yeah.
Because we'll get to my top 10 when we do.
Did you make a
But
list?
no, I didn't make a list, but I
I
have a
didn't make
piece
a
of
list, but
paper here to
I
like
think I
kind
could
of
just
write.
name people probably.
Yeah. I think we could kind of put it together. But in regards to his list, I mean, I'm not going to argue with it. Dr. J is one of the most respected basketball players of all time, and he knows his stuff. And every player he mentioned, I don't know the 10th guy, so I'm not. I can't comment on that. I would pick someone else personally because I wouldn't even know his name. But in regards to everyone else, they're all time greats for sure. Big O was the all time leading triple double leader before Russell Westbrook. Jerry West was just a great basketball player. He's a logo. Elgin Baylor, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Bill Russ. These are all names that are the top of the top. These are ceiling players. You cannot be a better center than Bill Russell, Wilt Chamberlain, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Hmm.
So in that respect, I mean, I'm fine with his list. I would have a different list. I didn't watch a lot of these players, and I know this is a different era of basketball. I have not watched a lot of basketball. I've watched probably the most out of the players mentioned. I mean, I've seen quite a bit of Michael Jordan, Kareem, Magic Johnson, but not a lot of like the 80s, 70s players. I've not watched a lot. Um, so I wouldn't probably pick them, but that's from my personal experience. Um, I mean, how do you feel about it? I know you're reading it, but
Yeah, so here's my biggest issue with this.
okay.
The part where he said, I made this decision when I was 15 years old. Julius Erving is 73 years old. It's been 58 years. Basketball has changed and evolved. Players have grown. Um, so like for me,
But
I think about it, and if I go through his list, and Tiny Archibald is not going to be on my list. Karl Malone not going to be on my list. Magic, Michael, Kareem, that's fine. Those three guys are in
yeah,
your top 10. Cool with me. Oscar Robertson, I like Oscar Robertson.
yeah.
I think that's okay. Bill Russell, 11 championships. Yeah, got it.
Different era though.
Fine.
Different. Yeah.
Elgin Baylor, Wilt, Jerry West, I probably wouldn't have in my top 10.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, and I think this is kind of what I wanted to get into with the eras thing is like clearly most of these players played either before him or when he played. Only
Yeah.
like Michael and Karl Malone are like the only people that played after him.
Yeah.
Um, Everybody else, he had some sort of experience with or watched personally growing up. Um, so it's interesting because, I can come back and say me growing up watching the 2000s players, so I think Tracy McGrady is on my all-time list because I watched him growing up, right? But that's probably not
Yeah.
accurate for most people. Um, but I think you have to, as like a basketball mind, you have to be able to appreciate the change that basketball has taken over the course of time. Um,
Yes.
and when I think about that, like I think about, the GOAT conversation, right? Is like Michael Jordan, LeBron James, which in my mind clearly means that they're one and two at least, because if that's the GOAT conversation, then one of them has to be one and one of them has to be two.
Right.
So you think about that, but then you think about someone like Bill Russell, who I just said won 11 championships. Nobody considers Bill Russell the greatest player of all time. And it's just because he played in a different time period where there's only six teams in the NBA.
Yeah.
And he just kind of dominated with a really good team over that, course of time.
Yeah.
Um, so I think you have to kind of take things like that into consideration. Um, and we kind of talked about this first episode. We talked
Hmm.
about like basketball talent, I think, being at like an all-time high.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
Parity in the league, good players not getting playing time. So I think basketball talent has pretty much grown over time. I know in the NBA kind of first started out like Bill Russell's era, Jerry West era. A lot of people had like jobs and like they just played basketball kind of on the side. Where now it's like, if you're an athlete, it's your whole career. You have a diet, you have exercise, you have workouts, you have trainings, you have the whole season, right? It's like your whole life is basketball. Guys in the NBA now have been playing since they were 3 years old or whatever. So it's like so much different. And I think you really have to step back and appreciate that. And I know, like, he's standing up for his guys, the guys he watched, the guys he played with. He's showing up, but and I don't know. I mean, maybe he wanted a reaction. He's getting a reaction from a lot of people, online. Um, it just, it's just like if you're not going to consider players in the last 20 years like LeBron or Steph or Larry Bird, Kevin Durant, you know, Larry Bird's not the last 20 years, but didn't mention him
Yeah,
on this
I know
list.
what you mean. Yeah.
Um, it's like it almost makes your credibility kind of go down.
I see what you're saying, and I do think that, like, you as a since he's a basketball player and an all-time great, you should watch and appreciate the growth that basketball has taken, and in the league, and just see how much better the players are technically. I think another thing he would mention or argue, though, is that, like, in the era of like the 80s and 90s and even the 70s, basketball was a lot more physical. So,
Hmm.
like, no such thing as load management or anything like that. And I'm sure if we mentioned somebody like LeBron James, and he's like, oh, he's soft, he couldn't make, or Steph Curry, they're not strong enough to make it back in the day, whatever.
Right.
um to me, it's different. It's almost a different sport when you're talking about things like that.
Mhm.
But if you're asking top 10 lists, these are things to consider. Are you talking about top 10 players in the era they played, or are you talking about, like, if you put like Bill Russell in the NBA today, would he win 11 championships?
And
We'll never know.
that's exactly what I wanted to get into. Like, I think having a discussion of top 10 of all time or something is just silly because
Hmm.
basketball has evolved and changed so much. It's not like and the examples you're pointing out, Bill Russell. No, Bill Russell in the NBA today is, I don't know, like at best, Bam. It's like
Yeah. I mean,
it,
or he could be better, but the thing is, we'll never know,
right.
and it's like, why even
And it's a
try
hard
and
it's a
make an argument for
yeah.
it? So it's like, when you're considering the players in their time, there's no question Bill Russell's a top 10 great, and like in his time in that era, no question.
Yeah.
But when you're like moving players like Jerry West into, if you put him in the Lakers uniform today, is he going to lead them to a championship? Maybe.
It
I don't
almost
know.
makes me want to like kind of it feels like we should just refer to the NBA all decades teams. Like
Right.
don't worry about anything else. Don't worry about cross compare, over time periods. Um,
Yeah.
and it's funny that I mentioned I wanted to surprise you with a different thing.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, yeah. I forgot about that. Yeah. What are you going to surprise me
and
with?
it's funny you mentioned the physicality. So what this reminded me of was, I don't know if you remember this. This was like a year and a half ago. Charles Oakley, who was on the Knicks, the Bulls in the 90s. Um, he was on a podcast and he was talking about Giannis, who had just won 2 MVPs, just won a championship, when this came out. Um, here's what he said. He started off with praise. He said, it's refreshing to see Giannis Antetokounmpo, guys that are like, yo, I can't be buddy buddy, because he kind of brings that old school mentality, that old school feel back into the NBA. He's doing his thing. I was just skeptical because he couldn't make a jump shot or free throw. After what he did last year, he done won me over. That's what he said. Okay.
Okay.
But but he also said he wouldn't have been a force back in the day. He would have struggled. They would make him shoot jump shots. He wouldn't be doing a Euro step to the basket. Somebody's gonna knock his head off. He'd come off the bench back in the day. So this is kind of what the Julius Erving thing reminded me of. Another older player
Yeah.
kind of commenting on current players. And I remember when I first heard this, I thought it was insane because I feel like, modern NBA spacing, 3-point shooting, Giannis is like the perfect 90s guy. Um,
Yeah,
like he just
absolutely.
runs to the basket and runs you over and dunks and he plays crazy defense or whatever. So for another, 90s player, Charles Oakley was never, not an all-time great. He was a fine role player.
Yeah, did his job.
To come and be like this guy that just won 2 MVPs and a championship, he's coming off the bench in the 90s. I'm like, that's an insane thing to say. That guy, I feel like would have been even better in in the 90s with his kind of style of play. And so that's the other thing I wanted to bring up to you because it's stuff
Yeah,
like this that happens where old players kind of comment on new players and kind of down talk the way basketball is now. But I feel like uh current players do the opposite, where like when they're talking about legends, they're like, "Oh yeah, that guy is a legend. He's awesome. He's amazing. I love him."
they
But like,
praise. I was just about to bring that up. Like whenever no one's gonna be like, yeah, come on, Charles Oakley, come on the court right now. They're like, I respect you, great role player. It is so interesting how these older players are kind of disrespecting newer players. I'm sure they maybe don't mean it that way. They're just stating their opinion, which is fine, and they're entitled to it. But sometimes, I mean, Giannis would not come. I mean, his defense alone is crazy. Like that would definitely garner him a starting position anywhere and on that team. But I actually didn't know he said that. That is wild. Um, there's a point though that it is back then things were more physical.
physical, yeah,
And not saying that it should be. I mean, do I love the ref calling nowadays? No. Do I love all
no,
the foul calling? No. But there's a certain there's a line needs to be drawn somewhere between trying to hurt somebody and then just trying to draw a foul or something.
right.
So maybe back then they were too loose with it. Like doing they were just doing crazy stuff, pushing people to the ground, no fouls called. Today, you like stare at someone and they call you a foul or technical. And I mean, we saw that summer league, and it was just,
Got to find the middle ground.
yeah, there's a better middle ground, and I
I
think
feel like
that's where,
it's gotten better with some of the changes they've made over the last couple of years. With like this year, they're gonna have the flopping penalty. They also
oh yeah,
had a couple years
yeah.
ago, if you remember, they had the like the offensive player pump fake and then like jump into you.
Yeah. Which
And
but they will still call it though, is the thing.
it's a
Like they're
lot
not.
better though. So
It's better.
sometimes they
It's
call it an
better.
offense. Usually it's an offensive foul now if you do that.
I saw quite a. I forgot who I saw that do it,
Swipe
but
throughs.
well, the swing throughs, yeah.
Hate
But like,
those.
I definitely have also seen players still do that and get called like defensive foul.
Yeah.
I know what did Jimmy Butler kick out his
Kicked out his
foot?
leg, yeah.
Yeah, and I mean it looked like a shooting
It looked like he just
motion.
shot, yeah.
Yeah, but they call it offensive foul, right? I think.
Yeah. And then they
Yeah.
oh no, I think they called it defensive foul. They called it defensive foul. They challenged it. And then the commentators, I think it was Mark Jackson, Jeff Van Gundy, Mike Breen, were like, "Oh, that's an offensive foul." And I was watching it, and I was like, "No, that's a defensive foul. He's
Yeah.
just shooting. That's just
Yeah,
a
he's
shooting
literally
motion."
shooting
And then
motion. Yeah.
the call stood, and the commentators were like, "How could they call that not an offensive foul?" Like freaking out.
That's what happened. Okay. I could, but anyway, so there's still like this controversy of like flopping and trying to draw these fouls. I don't love it. I hate, when you're fishing for fouls, you should try to win the game.
Right.
And I don't
If a
want to say
foul happens, it
honestly.
happens.
If a foul happens, exactly. But like trying to like that's why
Trying
I
to
didn't like watching Trey
elicit
Young,
fouls.
like as part of his game. Yeah, James Harden, Trey Young, it's part of their game. And like sure they are good at it, so they get but what happened in the last few years, they're not as good. Why? Because they're not getting as many fouls called. You know what I mean? So
Right.
they have to pivot and stuff like that wouldn't fly back then, sure. But it's just so the game, like I said, it's almost just a different game totally. And
Yeah.
just because like Steph Curry is not the most physical guy, you put Steph Curry on like in the 90s, he's still gonna be, he can shoot lights out. You know what I mean? So it's just
Yeah.
like, I think just because
Because
someone
you can't
might
tackle
not be,
players.
yeah, just because someone might not be as physical now or as it was now back then, that I don't think it just, takes away from what they do to the game,
And I
you know.
also think like someone like Steph Curry, he's not physical because that's not what the game is now. But if Steph Curry grew up playing in the 90s, he probably would have been more physical because that's how the game is. So you just kind of evolve to how the game is around you. Um, and it's like you're a product of the basketball that you're playing. It's not plug and play and we plug this guy's play style into the era. They probably adapt to the era based on, how they came into the league, based on
That's
what the
a
league is like.
Yeah, it's a great point. They've probably made basketball safer, and now players have they can play knowing that they won't get tackled and things like that to the
Yeah.
ground, and that's a really good point. That makes a lot of sense that that's what would happen, you know.
It's
I
like,
mean, you can argue that with any sport because everyone's just trying to make it safer. I mean, there are all these studies that these injuries cause lasting problems. Football concussions, soccer, just like hips and legs and everything. It's like we don't want these people to get hurt. We want them to play the game, right?
right.
So I think it only makes sense that you adapt the game to match that the people who love to play it can continue to play it.
Yeah, like if Giannis grew up in an era where bruising and kind of banging down low is the thing, then he probably would be a lot better at it. But that's not how basketball works now, so that's not
He
what he
doesn't need
does.
to. He doesn't need to do
Yeah.
it right now. Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to bring up and discuss because I thought it was interesting that, like we mentioned, the older players kind of stick up for older players and kind of criticize newer basketball a lot, but
Yeah.
newer players always kind of just respect. They're like, oh yeah, the older players, they're great, and I don't really get why that is, and I don't get how we're supposed to evaluate basketball over time. But maybe like you said, we just shouldn't. It's almost like a different game, like you kind of
It's
mentioned.
I think if you just walk into it, just knowing, hey, like, hey, you're my friend. We're gonna say our top 10, like, we think are the best basketball players of all time. It's gonna be subjective. I watched basketball in the early 2000s and currently, so things will be, skewed that way, but it doesn't discredit, just because I don't mention Bill Russell in my top 10 doesn't mean he wasn't an all-time great. You know what I
Right.
mean? What I think it's awesome that so many players are this good that we have this kind of discussion. You know what I mean? Like how boring would it be if it was the same five people all the
True.
time? You know what I
That's a good
mean?
point.
So
So
it's
much talent to choose
okay.
from.
Exactly. So it's okay that there are that people think things differently. I think we should respect all eras. I think if you hear me, Charles Oakley, just hey, respect every. Hey, we're all playing the game we love. We're all watching the game we love. Um, Recognize talent when it's there, and just be thankful we get to watch it. That's my point. But I do think it is interesting. That top 10 list was interesting. I'm gonna look at this Archibald guy. I don't know who this guy
I
is.
know I've heard Tiny Archibald. I kind of know a little bit about him, but yeah, I'm not like as familiar with this game, obviously, as the other people on the list.
Yeah.
Um,
We even talk about the top 75 players of all time list that the NBA came out
oh
with. Remember?
God,
Yeah,
that
who didn't
list
they?
was bad.
Yeah, they didn't include like
They
Dwight
didn't include
Howard.
Dwight. Clay Thompson, I think, was not on there.
Yeah,
Tracy
so many
McGrady, I don't think was on that list.
robbed,
I was like,
robbed.
come on.
Yeah, so all of that is so subjective.
So I kind of wanted to talk about the NBA list, but not really the top 75 list. The biggest issue I
Yeah,
had with it, and we're talking about how the evolution of basketball. When
yeah.
it came out with the top 75 list, they just added 25 players to the already made top 50 list. Why are we not removing some players from the top 50 list that could like you just mean they're there forever now because they have to make the first list of the top
I
50 players?
I
We
forgot
have so
about
many
that.
more teams and stuff now. We can cut some people. We can cut Dolph Shays. Okay, we love you, Dolph Shays, but like
I
you're a
agree
little
with
past
you.
your time.
I forgot that's what they did. That makes a
Yeah,
lot more sense why it's so weird. Like I'm sure if it was just top 75 without the first 50, it probably would look a little more like what we'd
Because that
expect.
means you're only allowing yourself to add 25 players every 25 years. You're allowing
That's
yourself one
crazy.
player a year to add because you're not going to remove everybody. But the first, the top, I don't know if the NBA made a top 25 list, 25-year anniversary. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. But if you had a top 25 list, you're including like 10 teams or whatever, like
Yeah,
players over
you're
the
really
course of time.
scraping the
Now
bottom
we
of the
have
barrel at some
30,
point.
30 teams every year. We have way more players in the NBA than we've ever had. So we can
Yeah.
take some of those older players off to put some, prime players in there, I think.
I bet you know what was really funny. So what that came out last year, right? Or 2 years ago,
I
top
think
75.
yeah, I think it was 2 years ago.
I bet we could come up with already 25 more to add, like that aren't on there right now. You know
That
what I
would be
mean?
insane.
Like that's how much talent I know is in the league right now. You know what I mean? And
Or like
how many
projected.
people?
Like
Yeah,
obviously Luca and Tatum aren't on there because they're young, but those guys will be on there by the time their career is done.
yeah. Even was Giannis on there?
I don't know. That's a great question. I don't
You
know
know,
if
like
Giannis is
like
on there.
we I'm just saying that like we could
Probably.
definitely, yeah, we could argue right now 25 people that deserve to be on there. That's all I'm saying is that like there's just so many great players to choose from. It is a little unfortunate that it comes down to just like a popularity contest, I feel like at some points. But
Giannis is on here.
he is epic double, back to back
You know
MVP.
who isn't on here that over the last 2 years certainly should be on here? Who's done the most in
Oh,
the NBA over the last
Nikola
2 years?
Jokic.
Nikola Jokic is
Yeah,
on.
whoa. Oh my
I
God, I
mean,
didn't
this was before he won his MVPs and a championship, so it makes sense.
but he should definitely be on that. So we already thought of like four players. Like, come on. Like, anyways, it's just crazy.
I
Um,
forgot that this list has 76 people on it
wait,
because
what?
there's like a tie in the votes for the last person.
Wow. Um, but since we are talking about this,
Going all over the place.
do you want to name your top five greatest NBA players? Top 10, I think, is a bit.
Top
I
five
think
sounds so
what
hard.
if we say like top five greatest slash with favorites? Because like the
Yeah,
thing is,
yeah.
I can't. There's no like we were just talking about it. Like how hypocritical would it be if I was like, "There's no way you could pick your top five greatest," but we're gonna do it right now. But like top five favorites of all time
Top
too.
five
You know what I
favorites.
mean?
Okay. Yeah, I mean, we kind of did a little bit of that during the pilot, and we talked about our like basketball fandom.
Yeah, but just like we could talk. Just I think like what it could be a mixture of like now and just
Yeah.
our view.
Let's here. Let's. I'm trying to think of a rubric. Okay,
Okay.
we can do. Let's do.
No longer playing.
I was gonna say let's do a player we never saw, like a player we never actually watched with our own eyes, like live,
Oh,
alive, like played before we were born.
okay, okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Uh, let's do like a player growing up that we
Player
like to
growing
watch a
up.
lot. Uh,
Okay.
let's do like a player like high school, college, like around where that age.
Okay, it's tough for me, but I can figure it out.
We can do
Top
a
favorite player now. Yeah.
now player. Um, I don't know. That's four.
And
Uh,
then like fifth, like one that maybe you like aspire, like if you were in the like what you would like want to be like, you know what I mean, or something like that.
how
Just
you'd want to play in the NBA? How
sure.
you think
Yeah,
you
let's
would
do
play?
that instead of just like, who we think is the best. Let's just do that.
Okay,
Yeah, I think
interesting.
that's
This
fun.
is
Okay.
interesting.
So what's the first one? A player we never watched live play.
Player we never
Um,
watched live.
so if I'll just go right now
Okay,
because I kind of already have one.
sure.
And he's one of my favorites to watch. Like I've watched games, I've watched highlights,
Mhm.
I've watched a lot of different things about it, listen to what other players say about him. I love the game of Magic Johnson.
Mm.
I love it. Wrote a song called Magic Johnson. I just think
Shout out Ugly Side Up.
shout out, check out my band. No kidding. I think his unselfish play is so cool. His ability to take over a game if necessary. His rookie year playing, like some of his like moments are just so incredible to watch. Um, I mean, just flashy passer, the charisma. I think he just kind of has it all, and he's a Laker, so I don't want to
Of
just pick
course.
like Michael Jordan.
Right. One of
Which
the
I mean,
obvious guy.
also I love watching Michael Jordan and everything like that. But to me, uh, it's got to be for me Magic Johnson. That would be mine for player I've never watched live or anything, but respect the game
Played before your time. Yeah.
and continues to inspire players now. Like, how cool is that? You think Bill Russell? Not again. I'm gonna say stuff. This is not. I'm sorry.
That guy
This is
just
about to
passed
get.
away.
No. You're right. You're right. But like, or like even like, who's like Wilt Chamberlain, or all these players. You think they're still inspiring people to this day? Maybe the moments they had, like I know Wilt Chamberlain's 100-point game is like a big thing people talk about, sure, but no one's like, you talk to a kid and they're like, I want to play like Wilt Chamberlain. You know what I mean? So Magic Johnson for me is what I would say.
Magic Johnson. That's a good one. That's a good one. I'm
Thank
trying to
you.
decide. I have two, and I'm trying to decide.
Flip a coin, brother.
Okay, I'm gonna go with a teammate of Magic Johnson.
Oh, I could guess. Okay.
Someone who I think was very dominant during his basketball career in college, in the NBA, and someone who still does a lot of work with the NBA. Also does a lot of uh charitable, like youth camp
Hmm.
type stuff. He's like very active, which I really like. He seems very like down to earth and like a genuine guy. Someone whose move I've tried to put into my game with
It's so
limited
fun.
success.
Yeah.
It's so fun. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Laker legend as well, Bucks legend.
Yep.
Yeah, I've watched my fair share of Kareem highlights. Obviously, played much before I was born. Um, and it. I think for me, it's kind of like I feel like Magic. It was good. I mean, obviously good at basketball, great passer, but he was very like flashy. Like Showtime
Yeah.
Lakers. Kareem was kind of I feel like just basketball. I'm just here for basketball. Like it is. It was very cool and almost like a like Tim Duncan in a way. Like it's not like
Yep.
the flashiest guy, but he will show up, do his business, and be a dominating force while he does it. And kind of change the game in a way for big men. Pretty much not necessarily the sky hook, but pretty much every
Yeah.
big man tries to put some sort of hook shot into his game so they can be useful from the post if they're not a shooter. Uh,
Yeah.
a lot of jump hooks and things
Yeah.
like that.
You
That
can't block that. It's so hard. Yeah.
yeah. So I think that would be a good one for me, just because I
That's great.
like the legacy. I like the person outside of the NBA, the way he plays and all that.
So second highest scorer of all time.
Second highest score of all time.
Yeah.
Before the three was a
I was
thing.
so yes, was so good and played for was so good for so long too is
Yeah,
also incredible.
yeah.
Definitely he's up there for me too.
Six-time MVP. See, only six-time MVP, I
Something like
think.
that. Yeah, I think they're like, oh,
I
this
think
guy's a
Jordan
cheat
has
code.
5.
Yeah, he has 5.
LeBron has 4.
Who was the other guy you were gonna? I'm just curious.
So it was a
Just
center. It was a center battle, and you went from you went with Lakers. I thought at hometown. I thought about going Hakeem. Hakeem, Rockets
That would have
legend.
been very interesting.
Because the
Uh,
Rockets won the championship in '94 and '95, and I was born in '96. So
yeah,
I just missed
gotcha.
out on the Hakeem Rockets, but uh, NBA all-time leader in blocks. I
Crazy.
love defense.
Yeah,
And he also, he had the dream shake. He had a lot of post moves that I think centers tried to adapt their game around.
yeah,
Uh,
for sure. Not talked about enough, I think, but definitely an all-time
Underrated.
great.
Hakeem is
Yeah,
underrated for sure.
for sure. Next category was player we watched growing up.
Yeah.
I
I
think
have
this one,
mine right away.
yeah, we covered this a lot. We don't have to spend too much time. For me, it's Kobe Bryant for sure. Is a reason why I Love the Lakers. Loved watching basketball. Wanted to play it all the time. That's an easy choice for me. I can guess yours, but you go.
Yeah, Tracy McGrady.
Yeah, yeah.
Passion. Like I don't know. I feel like opposite of Kareem, where well, not opposite, but like he is on the court, he's scoring, but he like you could tell it how much it means to him.
Yeah,
Like when he played basketball, career unfortunately was not as great as it could have been for a lot of injuries. Never made it past the first round of the playoffs.
I didn't know that. Crazy.
Yeah, so I think his career, could have been great, but I think when you think about like pure basketball talent, he's up there. I think career-wise, you wouldn't take him in front of somebody like Kobe, obviously.
Yeah,
But I think when people were comparing talent like Kobe and T-Mac, they would be in like a similar conversation because
for sure.
he was like
It was
that good.
oh
But he
yeah,
just
amazing.
didn't have the career.
Didn't have the team, the supporting cast either. When like you needed him. Like he was on the team with Yao, but Yao was riddled with injuries. Couldn't really like move forward in a lot of things. And yeah, I love watching T Mac too growing up. Um, that was a good one. Yeah. Okay. Next is said high school, college, right?
Yeah, kind of like
That
when you got
one's
back into basketball, like
yeah.
when you
Let's do
first got
that.
back in.
Yeah, when I first got big, which also I touched upon in the first episode, but so this was like after college. So I got back into basketball like when I moved to LA about like 2 years later. Right before the pandemic, I just had like free time, and I was like, I want to get back into basketball. And for me, it was Luca.
Mm,
Yeah,
interesting.
because I just watched some Mavericks game, and I loved the unselfishness. I loved the triple double threat. Um, how hard he is to guard, how different. He's slow, yet he's unguardable, and he can make these shots, and he can do the passes. And it's Luka Magic for a reason. And
Luka.
he not that I ever lost faith in the NBA because I've loved basketball my whole life, but I didn't watch it for a long time. Watching him made me feel good, like, okay, the NBA is in good hands. Like he's a young player, and I could tell he loves playing basketball and he's good at it. Like he was like, and obviously now it's expanded, but that was the first one to me that like struck a chord when watching.
Interesting.
Yeah. And what about you?
Yeah, I won't spend too long because we've definitely talked about it before. It's
I can
definitely
guess
Russell
this.
Westbrook. It's
Yeah, that
Russell
was
Westbrook.
yeah, no.
Passion, heart, drive, run and dunk. Um, Not always the brightest decision maker, but the care and stuff was clearly there. So yeah, I won't harp too much on that because we kind of already talked about that.
Yeah.
But so far at the point guard, I got Russell Westbrook. At the shooting guard, I got Trace McGrady. Center is Kareem. That's my team so far. It's actually a team.
Dude, I don't have any centers.
You
I
have
gotta
you got Magic, Kobe, Luca. That could be their three. You just need some big men in there.
yeah, yeah. Well, okay, so now we gotta pick now we're gonna pick our favorite player now to watch.
Yes.
That's so this one's tough because I was gonna pick Luca, but then I was like, okay,
I already
now
picked Luca. I can't pick Luca again.
how about you go? So while I think, because I've gone first this whole time. Unless if you don't know anybody, then I can
Yeah, I had somebody that I kind of thought, but it's a little controversial.
I'm all for it. Oh, I also I would love to guess if
Yeah,
possible, because we
guess,
talk about this
guess.
a lot. I'm gonna guess Kawhi.
Kawhi. That's interesting. Maybe like 2 years ago it would have been Kawhi before he
Yeah.
stopped playing
Yeah.
basketball because I do love Kawhi. But I was gonna say the reason I think it's controversial is really some off-court stuff. But the first person that I feel like reminded me a lot of Russell Westbrook, John Morant. John Morant.
Ooh, you're okay. Talk about that
I
a little bit.
I like I think John Morant does a good job of combining what I really liked about Russell Westbrook when I got back into it and what I liked about T-Mac growing up. Whereas like the athleticism and the passion stuff is there, but he also has some flashiness that I think T-Mac had. Some kind of I don't know, some like almost like some arrogance where it's like, oh, okay, this guy thinks he's like awesome, and I feel like he had it as soon as he came into the league.
Yeah.
He was doing the goggles when he made passes, and he's dunking on people and kind of talking trash. Um, and then he has some defensive stuff too. I know you were actually at the game where he blocked that ball off the backboard with both of his hands, like almost slapped his head into the backboard.
Yeah, he literally the ball was at the very top of the backboard, and he jumped and grabbed it from the top. It was insane.
Yeah,
I had the view. I was at the backboard, so I saw him. I was like, "What in the hell just happened?"
yeah.
Crazy.
So I think in terms of current players, I really can kind of appreciate his game. I think he's propelled the Grizzlies. They jumped up to the number 2 pick and they were kind of a lower seed, but the last couple of years they've been 2 or 3 seed, I think, the last 2 years. So I think he's kind of taken them and raised them up. And I like that team a lot. We talked about Jaren Jackson Jr. I like him a lot.
Yeah,
Um, I was kind of in between Ja or I also really like Tatum. I like Tatum a lot.
Tatum's a really good one.
Wing
I'm
wings
cycling.
or isolated.
Yeah, I'm cycling through a lot of players right now in my head. Like I'm looking at a list of teams just
You know
because
why?
these
Because the NBA is really talented. That's why.
I love basketball.
I just talked about Ja. I talked about Ja forever, but I realized my team already has a point guard, so maybe I should just have Tatum
No,
instead.
it's okay. You can pick it doesn't. This is not five against. You know what I mean? This is just like us picking our. I don't want
Yeah,
to like be constricted. Like you said, job because that's what you felt.
yeah.
Um, I
John Morant.
I am going to say I'm flipping between two right now,
Mm,
and I think for the sake of parity, I'm gonna go just to get different kind of players and representation.
mhm.
Demontis Sabonis.
Mm,
And
interesting.
this is an interesting one. And there's a big personal reason why I love watching him now,
Why?
obviously.
Why is
So
that?
so he's Lithuanian, I'm Lithuanian.
Dom's Lithuanian. If y'all didn't
Um,
know.
I don't know if I've talked about that enough, but I do love his game and I love what he did on the Pacers. I love that he now has the spotlight with the Kings. Him and De'Aaron Fox are almost impossible to stop when they're full health.
I like De'Aaron
Um,
Fox a lot.
De'Aaron Fox, there's like I said, I could name like 10 players I love watching right now. It's how much I love the league right now. It's just you can find someone on every team that's really fun to watch.
Is the NBA era currently modern NBA? Is it the best era?
That's hey, I don't know.
That's gonna
I
be the
don't
title of this
know.
episode.
Okay, sounds good. But okay, I'll say this. I think the NBA now compared to when we were growing up, like early 2000s, I would say is better. I just think
Yeah.
the quality and amount of players that are good is better.
I mean, you think about,
Um,
we talked about the last like 4 years or whatever with the different championships, and you think about
yeah,
like, okay, there was the years where it was literally 2 top 5 players in the league with Steph Curry, Kevin Durant on the same team. Yeah, that's
yeah,
that's a crazy team. There was the LeBron Heat where he's like the best player in the league, and Dwayne Wade's like a top 10 player in the league, and Bosh is like a top 20 player in the league. Yeah, that's the best team. But aside from those two, I think, you go back, the Spurs kind of had
hmm,
elongated kind of good times. Kobe and Shaq
right.
obviously was a good one. Um, but like you go back to the
Celtics,
Celtics that
yeah,
won 11 championships. You go back to the Showtime Lakers, they were dominant forever. You go back to Michael Jordan, the Bulls, they dominated the whole decade. So I think we have had, in the last 20 years, a couple super teams, but I think the overall league is better aside
yeah.
from like the last, real, I think, super team was that Warriors team that had Steph Curry and KD and all of the other good players that are already on the Warriors team. Um,
You wouldn't say it was the Nets with KD, Harden, and Kyrie because I feel
well, I
like
think you're adding to my point. They had KD, Harden, and Kyrie. They didn't do anything.
no,
Um,
I agree. I agree. But I'm saying that like to me that was the last super team. I feel like
but like
uh
now, look at the Suns. They have
yeah,
KD, Booker, and Bradley Beal. Do we expect them to just come in and roll the league next year? No.
not if the Lakers have
But
something to say
if
about
you plug them into a different era, um, that's
it.
probably the expected result, right? It's like the
Yeah,
90s, it's okay, it's the Bulls against whoever makes it out the West. In the 80s, it's the Lakers against the Celtics. In the 70s, in the
yeah,
60s, it's the Celtics over and over again. So I think, you know, um, that this era of basketball I like a lot because I feel like it's not as predictable.
Yeah, I agree. But yeah, so yeah, I would say Sabonis. I really enjoy his game and watching him, and I think the are just really fun to watch, and I think he's a big part of it. Very big fundamentals guy, but I love that he doesn't have to be flashy. He gets the job done, gets what he needs to be done, and he's physical and yeah,
Does
I love what.
he run the ball a lot from like the high post?
Not as much now. He doesn't need to. I know with the Pacers he did a little bit, but now they have ball handlers, so he doesn't really as much. They do some two-man game, him and De'Aaron. Two-man game.
Hey, De'Aaron and
Hey,
DeMontis.
hey, D&D. Hey, shout
Wow.
out D&D. Shout out D&D.
Wow. That's
Wow.
who we are. You're Sabonis and I'm De'Aaron.
Okay.
You're the
That's
center
it.
and I'm the point guard.
But yeah, so that's my pick. And then last one is like if we could
I like that.
emulate. Yeah, if there's any player right now we could emulate, I'm this was one of my
I already
picks
have this answer.
possibly.
I've thought about this
Yeah,
before.
I haven't either really, but he was one of my I was considering him for the last pick, but I'm gonna pick him now. Anthony Edwards.
Oh, do you
Yeah,
think you play like Anthony Edwards or you want to play like Anthony Edwards?
I said want to. Is
You
that we
want
want
to.
to emulate our
Oh,
game, not
okay.
like who we play like. I thought that's what you were saying.
Interesting.
Or do we? Because I mean, I know you've told me who I don't really know exactly who I play. Like you've told me I play with Paul George, and I don't.
I don't remember that, but sure.
I mean, I kind of get it. I'm not the biggest Paul George fan, but he's
Top
a
three
good
in
basketball
MVP
player. Yeah, I guess.
with the Thunder.
Well, what were you gonna say? Were you gonna say someone that you thought you play like?
I was gonna say, I guess not really someone that I thought I'd play like. Maybe offensively. Maybe it does work for someone who I want to play like actually. So I'll keep my answer the same.
Yeah,
But
who is it?
talk about Anthony Edwards. Talk about why you want to play Anthony Edwards.
Well, he's just fun to watch, man. Like he's electrifying, and I love his.
I would love to
I
see you dunk on someone like Anthony Edwards. That'd be
that's
crazy.
I mean I really like his kind of evolution. It seems like when he came in the league, he was for number one overall pick. So like there's a lot of expectation for sure. And for most part, he has lived up to it. But I know there was questions about his defense and like there were so many clips that they would show of like them on offense, but when he didn't have the ball, he'd just stand there at the 3-point line and not do it, like no off ball movement or anything.
Mhm.
But I think he's grown a lot in the past few years, and now he's like the number one option on the Timberwolves. Like he
Yeah,
surpassed Cat.
right.
I think that is so cool, and I love that it seems to me like he's taking it more seriously. And um, I know we talked about his number change and everything, and putting that out like disregarding all that, but just his game.
Mhm.
I just love how much fun it looks like he's having, and he kind of has an unselfish play too. Like he'll pass it if he needs to, and um, yeah. I mean, there's a million players I could pick, but he was one I was just looking at a list, and I was like, I like his game. It'd be fun to play like that.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
you're gonna be surprised by my answer, I think.
Okay. Go.
My answer, 0-time All-Star, maybe an All-Star this year. New York Knick, Jalen Brunson. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so the reason I thought about this recently is because Jalen Brunson is all he's like my height, he's like 6'2". I'm like a little over 6'2". Um, and when I go to, play pickup or whatever, I'm usually one of the tallest guys. So I'm usually like the big man. Um, and Jalen Brunson, I think his game is really interesting because he's one of the few guards in the NBA that has a really good post game. Like he backs people down and shoots like fadeaway jumpers and stuff, but he has like really good post footwork for a guard.
Yeah.
Um, and
Great footwork. Yeah.
he's not afraid to kind of get down and be physical and contend with some of the bigger people. And of course, he's a decent shooter. He can ball handle very well. So I feel like if I could play like that, my pickup a guard who operates almost like a big man sometimes, I feel like that would really add to kind of what I already do, I think. Um,
Yeah.
and yeah, I think, I think his game definitely is a little under the radar. I think it probably became more prevalent this last year with the Knicks going to the second round in the playoffs, and he was
Absolutely,
kind
yeah.
of like the guy on their team for that. Um, but I think he's still kind of underrated, I think. He's not really in like the public light. He's not somebody that has had all-star appearances that I think the media talks about a lot or anything like that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's a great choice. I love Jalen Brunson's game, and I love watching him on the Knicks and on the FIBA World Cup on the U.S. team. Um, yeah, yeah, I love that pick. Like I said, I had a lot of. He wasn't one I immediately thought of, but he's also a player I would love to be able to play like. And I thought you were gonna say Jimmy Butler. That's what I thought you were
see,
gonna say.
I like Jimmy Butler. I thought about saying Jimmy Butler for the John Morant one, but
Because
Jimmy Butler,
because you're physical too is the thing. So I
he
thought,
he's a foul drawer, which I don't like. I don't
yeah,
like that part of the NBA.
that is not, yeah, for sure. Um, but yeah, no, hey, I think we had
That's our
some
top
pretty
five players of
good
all time right there.
all time. Anthony Edwards, all time. It's a bonus, top five all time.
We kind of went all over the place with that.
Yeah, but that was fun. Yeah, I think yeah, you brought up a lot of good points about like eras and players and how good the league is now. It just makes me appreciate it more. And just excited to see like who else is going to be. There's only going to be more players that get into this league and more greats that are coming in. So I don't know, it's just an exciting time for basketball, and just love watching like these young teams make jumps and these classic teams just get good and consolidate, and it's really fun time to be a fan for basketball right now.
Yeah, which answers the question: what's the best era of basketball? We'll let you decide in the comments and the poll. The
Yeah, I was
poll.
gonna say that'll be the poll. That's a good poll. But yeah,
Did you see the
yeah,
last episode's poll?
no, what was it?
It was what's your favorite basketball podcast, and both answers were D&D's two-man game.
How many for D&D's two-man game?
I didn't look. That I made the poll. I didn't look at the poll.
Gotcha. You gotta check it out.
Probably has no answers.
Usually it's just me who answers it, so I'm surprised I didn't answer it yet. But again, thanks for listening to D&D's two-man game. This is one of the shorter episodes, which is crazy. But we will be back here again next week with episode 5. We're gonna find things to talk about.
I was gonna say, I think next, now that I think we've done all the news, the off season, we've kind of gotten out of the way in the first 4 episodes. What I would like to start doing, ramping up to the season, is I think we're gonna start ranking stuff. Um,
You know me. You know me and ranking. We go way
we
back.
talked about this episode how dumb ranking is when you're doing it over eras, but I think we may do top point guards, top 30 point guards, and just rank them on tiers like the top 5 or S tier, top 10 or A tier. So on and so forth.
Watchability would be fun too.
Watchability
Team watchability.
jerseys as they release jerseys. We'll
Oh,
definitely talk about jerseys.
when those city jerseys
Definitely talk
come
about
out,
those.
I
We love
cannot
talking
wait
about
for that.
jerseys.
That's so fun.
So I think that will be a lot of the rest of the off-season content is us tackling stuff for this upcoming season, ranking it, talking about it, discussing it. Of course, as always, we're just two guys that watch basketball. Kind of sometimes we don't really watch it as much as, the super analysts that you're gonna see on ESPN or whatever. Please take any opinions and all that with a grain of salt. It's not, it's not a serious thing. We're just having fun. We're just dishing our
Having a good
thoughts out
time.
there. I literally just talked about how stupid ranking is. I'm like, we're about to rank everything right after.
Because we like having fun too. We just want to have
Um,
fun too.
yeah. So I think we'll get into that episode 5. But let me try to make this shot as
Make this shot.
I do. Last time I hit the
Same.
net, so I
Okay.
texted Dominicus this, but we couldn't tell in the video if you listened to episode 3 at the very end. We couldn't tell if I made it or not. But when I was going back and looking at it, I did not make it. I hit the net and it went in the laundry basket, so I thought I made it, but no, it was short, like every other shot, except for when I throw it over the door, which does happen sometimes, off camera when I'm practicing.
All right. So remember to move your hand after you take the shot.
Remember to move my hand. I'll get
Yeah. And then all right, let's see how it goes. Damon backs up into the goal. He sets up for a shot and he
Oh, that was close. Rim.
almost
I got
makes
rim.
it.
I got
He
rim.
got rim.
You could see it that time
Wow.
too. I moved my hand and everything.
Oh,
Um,
thank
I'm
you.
getting closer. I'm getting better.
All
You
right.
said it would
Well,
take me after episode 25, so
I stand by it. I stand by it.
I got
But
21 episodes to go.
tune in next week to find out if Damon makes it
Oh,
on
oh, oh.
D&D's two-man game.
Was I supposed to say it too?
That's fine. We didn't do it. It's okay.
Peace.